Hello, and welcome to another Unmasked episode of So What's on Your Mind? I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, and today we are reaching out to the top journalist, author, and documentary filmmaker in the world. This is my opinion, and I think a lot of people will agree with me. He has 34 years of experience in his field of work, dating back to the summer after his freshman year, where he was covering sports for the Poughkeepsie Journal. I believe on his 19th birthday was when he got his first front page byline on a story about Louis Farrakhan's visit to the home of Tawana Brawley. So when I say that, you'll understand later on, that may have set him on his path and what he does today. We are here to find out what is going on in his world, from politics, life, education, sports, music, health, or anything he wants to talk about today. Today's guest is a gifted and talented young man that I had a chance to meet 4 years ago. I believe it is now. Of course, it was in the gym. He was writing an article on the new landscape of recruiting, and he asked what my thoughts were. And I know he was putting it in an article at the time. He's a 1992 graduate of Yale University. And this is interesting because this man, I see why he is the person he is today. He was a basketball player. He was a DJ. He played Kappa Alpha Psi. He worked for several newspapers and magazines. He was also managing editor for Vibe magazine. This is after graduation, for a couple of years before actually becoming founding editor-in-chief of Blaze magazine, which was a spinoff of Vibe. He started a company with his father, that published 2 coffee table books. He's the co-founder of the streetball magazine Bounce. His novel, Black Will Shoot, was published in 2008. It was like a few months before, I believe, Obama came into office. In 2015, he moved to ESPN to launch The Undefeated, which was rebranded as Anscape in 2021. He has won many awards along the way. I'm fortunate to have him as a guest today. He's the co-author of the autobiography of former Georgetown basketball coach and legend John Thompson. He came as a shadow, which I'm going to say this now, that was probably the fastest book I read ever, because I didn't put it down. I think it was that also. I got it on Christmas Day, and I was done on the morning of the 26th. So that tells you how powerful that book was. And he's director of his first documentary, Bearing Witness. And then he has a few projects ongoing right now. I want to say hello and welcome to Jesse Washington. And what I want to ask you is, so what's on your mind?
Man, well, thank you very much for that very kind intro. And what's on my mind right now is basketball. It's that time of year. I got high school kids getting ready to start their season. Shout out to the Twins. I got a son getting ready to start his season at Drexel University. Shout out to Coltrane. And I'm watching NBA. And what I'm seeing and what's on my mind is just immense changes in the game of basketball, top to bottom. Like the game is before our very eyes, turning into something new, something great, something problematic. And so here's what I'm seeing. Number one, the skill level, an all-time high. It's crazy what people can do. These players are so good, and I'm talking from high school on up, that the refs can't even call the game no more. There's 2 moves that are on the internet right now that you might want to go see. Darius Garland and Jordan Poole, both are so shifty that they double dribbling and the refs don't even see it. It's nuts. Like, how are you really supposed to guard that? So one of the big changes, I think, obviously, in the game, and it's not too much to say this, you really can't guard guys anymore. And before, it was like you couldn't guard the greats. Like, obviously, you can't guard the GOATs of this thing. But now, like, average dudes are sort of unguardable because they understand and have been exposed to all these moves. So I stay with you. I contest Hezi and I'm by you. You're allowed to carry the basketball, right? I mean, they don't call it a carry no more. That's a change that really Allen Iverson brought into the game. So you can put your hand under. I'm going to jump as a defender. I'm by you, then I could take probably 3 steps because my master of the gather, like it's a lot of times it's not a travel and a lot of times it is, but it's not being called. So like, then if I manage to stay with you past the hezzy to the hoop and I'm somehow still with you, then you just hit me with the up and under and the step through. Like, so, that's one change that I see in basketball. So, and that's really starts in the NBA, man. Those guys, their skill level is unbelievable. So let's talk about college and the changes in college basketball now. Players are finally getting paid. Thank you. It's about time. It changes a lot, though. Let me give you an example. Oscar Tshiebwe at Kentucky. He's making like, what, 500 this year to stay another year. This was the player of the year in college basketball, unanimous best player in NCAA Division I, and he didn't go pro. And a big reason for that is that he could get that cake still legally while he's at Kentucky. Let's be real, the players were always getting that money, but now it's above board and it can happen reasonably. I think it's about time. The change I'm really waiting for, though, is for the NCAA to give these players some of their money. See, this NIL is not NCAA money, so the NCAA is like, okay, cool, we still got us, and you can have this little something. The players got to get some of that big TV money bag next, which I think is coming. But that's the change I see in college. I do think that there's more pathways to the NBA now, so you're going to see more guys in college who are staying for a few years to develop and not come in and out real quick, which is great for the college game. Shout out to my squad, Drexel University, Coltrane, Washington. Keep an eye on them, sleepers in the CAA. We coming back to the big dance, baby. And then at the high school level, high school players are getting NIL, and I'm all for it. High school players are also moving from program to program at a higher rate than they have at any time before. And also something that I see in the high school game is there's this new level of high school basketball that's developing that's really separate from your average public school or even your average private school. It's basically just an AAU squad in the scholastic season. And I'm going to get my dudes together. We're going to have you go to school online. You might live together, you might not. And I'm watching the high school championships on the mothership ESPN a couple weeks ago, and they got like Team California. And I'm like, wait, is that Sierra Canyon or isn't it? Like, I don't really know what's going on. Like, so they got these super duper teams, and Team Florida was really IMG, but it said Team Florida on the screen, but the coach on the sideline had IMG right here. And their best player was the young white fellow who's from Maine or something. Like, it's like, what is going on? I love it. It's taken the game from an entertainment perspective and from a skill perspective to a new place. But like, that's not really high school basketball. And I'm here for it. It's cool, but let's call it what it is. So long story short, man, all these changes that I see in the playing of the game and the organization of it. And here's the last one that I'm going to lay on. For generations and generations in our community, the Black community, basketball was a way to an education and a way out. And that's what we pursued. It was our avenue. And in doing so, we really made basketball our game. So right now, the game is ours. Culturally, athletically, we're starting to influence at the highest levels, owning teams, owning agencies, NBA players choosing to where they will play rather than being dictated to. So these are all great things, but it comes at a cost because there's so much money in the game that now, even all the way down to the bottom, it becomes more about getting that money and earning money, whether it be for a trainer or AAU program or this or that, rather than the education of youth. So all this other basketball that we've talked about, this is the top 1% of the 1%, the greatest players in the world. But there's hundreds of thousands of other boys and girls who can get as much out of this game as I did, who's never been paid a nickel to play basketball. And I worry about what's going to happen to them and their experience with the game because it's so much based on money now. So let's pay attention to that as we enter this new era of basketball, as we continue to enjoy the unprecedented skill and excitement. And let's never forget that really, for most people who play basketball, it's about elevation of you as a person, what you learn on that court and what it tells you about yourself, how you can apply that to the rest of your life. As long as we don't lose sight of that, man, these changes, it's going to be all for the good. That's what's on my mind.
Man, that was some awesome jewels you dropped, and you're 100% right about the game. I like you. We're the same age. I'm 51. Like, we're in the same. And
Yep.
people, I don't understand like how people, they're so stuck in their ways. They want the game to be the way it was. Like, no, everything evolves. Like, I'm excited about the evolution of the game. Like, oh man, you take 2-minute threes and like, I mean, analytics, but it's like, it's enjoyed to me. I like watching it. I grew up in the 90s. I mean, 80s, 90s. I watched how physical and all that. That's not basketball. It wasn't supposed to be made that way. People forget, like in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't as physical. Like the Lakers got up and down, like teams played fast. It was when, the 90s and they started being physical with Mike. And like that's
that
when
was the only way to stop him. That was the only way to stop Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Pat Riley went from being with the Showtime Lakers to the Knicks, and his style was totally different. You know what I'm saying? Because of MJ, and I understand that. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy the evolution of the game. The only thing, and I'll kind of, the one thing I always say, the reason why they talk about international players being ahead and things of that nature. I think the one thing that we have to really get good at again is, I think it's 3 different brands of basketball. High school, you have like over in international basketball, everyone plays 10-minute quarters. Everyone plays with a 24-second shot clock. In high school basketball, everyone doesn't have a shot clock. Everyone doesn't. They play 8-minute quarters. And then when you go to college, it's 2 20-minute halves and it's a 30-second shot clock. Now you go to the NBA, now you got 4 12-minute quarters, but then you have 24-second shot clock. So the brand, I mean, there's 3 different games going on, which are all exciting, but we have to, if we want to get back to being that dominant, like I think a lot of things have to change in that realm.
Absolutely. NCAA men's basketball is the only one around the world that I know of that plays by halves. Everybody else has quarters. It changes the whole psychology of the foul situation and everything. So we need to get with that. Now, there are a few downsides that come with these changes in basketball. One of them that I neglected to mention comes from the internet. We could blame the internet for everything, but like, I love Ball is Life and their channels and everything. It's very exciting, but they be putting too many highlights on there of just dudes making moves, and then kids see that, and then unconsciously they're like, okay, that's how I get noticed. And so too many kids are playing too individual a brand of basketball and not really understanding that all of the winning teams that we see at any level, it's not just, okay, you try to score. Okay, now you take turns in trying to score. There's a lot of forces that encourage that, as from watching young kids in AAU, you got guys who aren't really a team. So and I remember when they came up with this term called the dribble drive offense. And really that's just, okay, I'm gonna try to score, and if I can't, then I'm gonna pass it to you and then you try to score. So these are some things I think we have to guard against, and really, it comes down to this youth level, man, and we got to really guard. That's where the foundation of the whole game is at, and we got to teach these kids to play the right way. Don't worry about all this stuff you see on the internet. Man, I saw this clip that popped up on Ball's Life today, and again, I love my guys, man. Y'all are the best. My man David Astromkis is the hidden genius over there. But there was a move, and the caption said, "Yo, this was a filthy layup," and the dude gave him a hezzy, and then passed the ball over to his other hand and double dribbled and went by him, and then laid it in. I'm like, okay, so, what are we really talking about here? So, I agree with what you're saying about these changes, but there are some things that we have to keep an eye on. And those of us who, like, when we're in the gym, guys like me and you, man, drop these jewels on these young people. Everybody who's listening, man, pass it on to the next generation, uplift them, and don't hate. This is their time. They're supposed to do new things that may seem funny to us, but pass on the wisdom and the jewels to them, man, so we can keep this game going that we love.
And that's exactly what everyone did to us. Like when you play, and I'm not shocked today that Jesse is talking about basketball, because he'll pull up to a court like he's still hooping. So like, that basketball is, and it's something that David Aldridge said the other day, which is probably similar to you. Writing, being a journalist, doing documentary, that pays the bills. Basketball is your passion, and you love it. And that was interesting. He said that that he was like, oh, God, all that paid the bills. But, basketball, that's your love, that's your passion. And I still see it in you, man. And keep that alive as long as you can. I mean, that's a blessing. So
knock on wood, man. I can still move around a little bit. I can stand in the corner, make a three, not embarrass myself. So I appreciate all the young bucks who let me still run with them.
All right, man. Well, look, I thank you again for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of yours. And I know, I can't wait to see these documentaries. I think you're doing it with Rich Paul and I can't wait to see that. And I think you're doing the George Floyd. You are doing something with that as well. So I can't wait to see those as well, man. So I thank you again.
Thank you. Love what you're doing. Keep up the great work.
All right.